Russian Foreign Ministry says that terrorist activities is designed to obstruct a resumption of talks between the Syrian parties and hinders the process of Syrian chemical weapons removal. Syria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Bashar al-Jafari, says that the report submitted by the United Nations Under-Secretary for Humanitarian Affairs is incomplete and lacks credibility. And the Syrian armed forces restore stability and security to the towns of Ras al-Maara and Fleita in Qalaoun area in Damascus countryside. Good afternoon, this is news in English from the Syrian Art Television in Damascus. The Geneva-based Human Rights Council of the United Nations passed a resolution previously submitted by Pakistan on the human rights situation in the occupied Syrian Golan. About 33 countries voted in favor of the resolution, which passed under the Council's agenda item number 7, with only the United States voting against it and 13 abstentions. The result is a milestone since the supporters of the decision account for more than 2/3 of the Council's members. Before the voting, Syria's permanent representative to the United Nations in Geneva, Dr. Faisal al-Hamwi, delivered Syria's statement enumerating Israel's human rights violations in the occupied Syrian Golan as conferred by the findings of the committee in charge with probing Israel's practices. He also elaborated on the suffering of the Syrian prisoners in Israeli jails and Israel's banning of visits via Qalaoun crossing. Syria's permanent representative to the United Nations, Dr. Bashar al-Jafari, said that the report submitted by the United Nations Under-Secretary General for Humanitarian Affairs and Emergency Relief Coordinator Valerie Amos on the application of Resolution number 2139 regarding humanitarian affairs is incomplete and lacks credible information. In a press conference held in New York following a Security Council closed session to discuss Amos's report, al-Jafari said the report ignores armed terrorist groups hindering of humanitarian aid delivery to various areas or opening fire on aid convoys, like what happened in Yarmouk camp in Damascus. Al-Jafari said Amos's report failed to mention massacres committed by terrorists, such as the massacre of Adra Worker City, nor does it mention hundreds of innocent civilians, some of them women and children, who were abducted nearly a year ago in Latakia's northern countryside and whom nobody talks about. He also noted the report did not mention the need to deal with the crisis in Syria politically, not just deal with the humanitarian aspect, because humanitarian issues cannot be resolved without addressing the political aspect represented by foreign interference in Syria's internal affairs and supporting terrorists, sending them from around the world. Turkish, Qatari, Saudi, Israeli intelligence support. Al-Jafari said that Erdogan directly supports terrorist groups in Syria, interferes in Syria's internal affairs, and escalates terrorism in it. In the northern countryside of Latakia city, army units continue to pursue the remains of armed terrorist groups, inflicting heavy losses upon them in Sulas village, Bab al-Amana, Kasab, and As-Samra village. Russian experts and diplomats consider that the recent Turkish attack against Syria took place because of the internal problems in Turkey, stressing that such an attack would have adverse consequences on Turkey itself. Deputy Chairman of the Russian Diplomats League, Oleg Prikovensin, said that the Turkish attack was caused by the Turkish internal problems and Turkey's interference in Syria's internal affairs. He added that throughout such attack, Erdogan tries to prove that he is attacking Syria and Iran, which are considered opponents to Saudi Arabia. Before the Turkish municipal and parliamentary elections, head of the Geopolitical Issues Academy, Konstantin Sipukov, said that the attack against Syria is funded by Qatari Saudi money with the aim of creating a regime of mercenaries in the country. In a different context and in Hom's countryside, an army unit foiled the terrorist group's attempt to enter Dar al-Kabira town. A military source said that all members of the group were killed or wounded and their weapons confiscated. The Syrian army and armed forces restored stability and security to the towns of Ras al-Maara and Fleita and Qalaoun area in Damascus countryside after getting rid of the fleeing terrorists and destroying their weapons and vehicles. A military source said that the army and armed forces units chased down the fleeing terrorists and besieged them in the villages of Ras al-Maara and Fleita. The source added that many terrorists were killed and others were injured during the operation. In Yalda town, Damascus countryside, the Imam of As-Salihin Mosque, Sheikh Saleh Al-Khatib, head of the National Reconciliation Committee in Yalda and Babila, was wounded in the blast of an explosive device planted by terrorists at the member of the mosque while he was reading Friday sermon. Meanwhile, a source in the police command said that the terrorists detonated another device near Al-Bara Mosque in Babila town, causing material damage, but no casualties were reported. The Russian Foreign Ministry said that the rise of the activities of extremist groups in Syria is intended to hinder talks between the Syrian parties and obstruct the Syrian chemical weapons destruction. The Russian Foreign Ministry said in a statement published on its website that the extremist activities is designed to obstruct the resumption of talks between the Syrian government and the opposition and denies them the possibility of reaching a political settlement to the crisis, adding that it hinders the process of chemical weapons removal from Syria. The ministry condemned terrorist attacks against peaceful civilians in Syria, including the indiscriminate bombardment of residential areas in Syrian cities. With this, we end our news for today. Thank you for watching. For more details about Syria and the region, and to view this bulletin again, you can always visit our website in English, www.syriaonline.sy. Now to the latest business and market news with Naliman Qassam, but after a short break.